The Wise Guys TCG10. Use it as our coupon code on inkgaming.com. It gets you a discount. What's going on, guys? It's Greg Farley from The Wise Guys, aka Pegasus. And you knew I was going to break it down. I told you I was going to break it down, but you've never seen anything online that's going to break down Gladiator Beast quite like this. Basically, in touching on this deck is at least a decade old. I believe it was in LODT. Forgive me if I'm wrong. I feel like there's other sets. It goes back so many years that I can't hardly remember. Really, I used to hate this deck's guts, but it's not about me. It's about the new cards as well as kind of the history of the deck. So the deck kind of bases its origins off of great leaders in the history of the world, and then like throws it into like some futuristic ancient Colosseum Roman thing. I don't know what it was really trying to do, but some of the names like Alexander reference Alexander the Great, Augustus being Augustus Caesar, of course, Bestiari, which is I think it was referencing some kind of like great Amazon woman, Darius being Darius the Great. I could just go down the list and on and on and on and on, but really, I think even Gazarius being Julius Caesar. But when we break down this deck, we have to talk about the new stuff first. The new stuff is why we're talking about it, so let's get into it, shall we? I think with Chaos Impact coming out, Gladiator Beasts are going to return. Are they going to be the top of the meta? No, I'm telling you that now. They get bodied by hand traps, so I'm telling you the weakness right off the bat. They get bodied by hand traps, and I mean hard. So unless something gets absolutely destroyed with Ash Blossom, nothing's really going to change, man. I'm just keeping it real with you. But that being put aside, this deck has a strong board presence. Now, let's jump into it. First up, with the new cards, we got Gladiator Beast, Sagittarius. I guess Sagittarius, who knows. It's a level 3 winged beast effect monster, 1400 attack, 1000 defense. If this card is special summoned by the effect of a Gladiator Beast monster, you can discard one Gladiator Beast card and draw 2 cards. At the end of the battle phase, if this card battled, you can shuffle it into the deck, special summon one Glad Beast monster from your deck, except Gladiator Beast Sagittarius. Up next in the new cards, we have Gladiator Beast Atrix. Atrix is a level 4 Earth Beast Warrior effect monster, 800 attack, 2000 defense. His effect reads, if this card is special summoned by the effect of a Gladiator Beast monster, which is going to happen, you can send one Gladiator Beast monster from your deck or extra deck to the graveyard, except Gladiator Beast Atrix. Until the end phase, this card's level and name become that monster's. Card's okay. At the end of the battle phase, if this card battled, you can shuffle into the deck, same as all the other Glad Beasts, and special summon one Gladiator Beast monster from your deck, except himself, which is Atrix. Basically, this is like the female Gladiator. It's a cool card, but I really feel like Plasma, or whatever, Elemental Hero Prisma. I said Plasma. Elemental Hero Prisma is actually like the better version of this card. Are you going to use that card? I don't know. There's options, and we'll get into that as we go along. Next up, we got Gladiator Beast Vespasius. Level 7 Water Sea Serpent effect monster, 2300 attack, 0 defense. So he's kind of a beater in the deck and one of the new cards on the block. You can use the first effect with this card's name only once per turn. If your Gladiator Beast monster battles a monster at the end of the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand. While this card that was special summoned by the Gladiator Beast monster's effect in your monster zone, monsters you control gain 500 attack. So basically, this is a new type of card where it special summons. I don't know if it's at the start of the damage step, you special summon him, but he gives 500 while he's attacking. So it's a Jurigato type monster. That's the best reference I could come up with as it drops down onto the field. But also note that it does have a restriction in name only once a turn. At the end of the battle phase, if this card battled, you can shuffle it into the deck as all the other Glad Beasts and special any of them out of the deck. So basically, when you're playing this deck with the main deck monsters, you have to know what Gladiator Beast you need at what time. But that isn't quite as important as it used to be. It used to be extremely important to know what to do and when to do it. But now with the new cards such as Gladiator Beast Dominatus, however the hell you say his name, we got some new cards on the block that are basically going to change the direction of the deck as well as enhance what was already being done. Essentially, this new fusion big sea serpent fusion boss monster guy with 3500 attack and 1200 defense. He's a beast, but he takes two materials. He takes both a Vespacious and two Glad Beast monsters. He must first be special summoned from your extra deck by shuffling the above cards you control into the deck. You do not need polymerization. That is extraordinarily important because otherwise this card would be extremely trash because you'd have to play polymerization in order to facilitate him coming out onto the field. Basically, once per turn, when your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, you can negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. So right off the bat, he has Divine Wrath on legs attached to him. Secondly, you can choose the attack targets for your opponent's attacks. That's nuts. Although your deck isn't going to be swarmed with monsters, it is going to have pretty much the same setup, which we'll get into, that you're going to see every game, which makes it a pretty strong card and a pretty strong effect to be able to go along with this card. Lastly, at the end of the battle phase, if he battled, you can return him to the extra deck and special summon a Glad Beast monster from your deck as all the other effects. The very, very important card, and I think the most important thing out of everything to go along with the fusion, is Test Panther. Test Panther is a Link to Earth Beast Link effect monster with 800 attack. His links point bottom left and straight down. You can only use this effect once per turn. Each effect once per turn. If this card is link summoned, you can add one Glad Beast card from your deck to your hand. You can target one Glad Beast monster you control, return that Glad Beast monster to the deck, and if you do, special summon from your deck one Glad Beast monster with an original name different from the return monsters, as if it were special summoned by the effect of a Gladiator Beast monster. That's very important, the way that it listed that, because his name is just Test Panther. So that's why they had to list that in that manner, in the way that they did. For me, this is where the deck gets a little tricky, because a lot of these new spell cards are very, very strong in how they're written and in how they can facilitate the deck, because they go in a pretty much different direction as well as help the weaknesses that the deck used to have. So first up, we got Gladiator Beast Comeback. It's a normal spell card. You can special summon from your hand or graveyard one Gladiator Beast monster with a type different from the monsters you control, and if you do, it cannot be destroyed by battle. So it's a normal spell, but it's a reborn as long as it has a different type than some on the field coming out of the grave, and it can't be destroyed by battle. The battle part, is that super duper important? Nah, I don't know so much. But having its own reborn on the card, that's a pretty good card to have. I mean, I at least would recommend looking at the card. Next up, we got United Gladiator Beast, which is their quick play spell. This card is nuts. You can activate only one of these once per turn, as long as it's in that name. Make sure you understand that. And during the turn this card is activated, you cannot declare attacks except to attack with Gladiator Beast monsters, to make sure nothing gets silly and you don't turn this into an El Shaddai fusion, you nutty players out there. During the battle phase, shuffle into the deck from your hand, field, or grave fusion materials listed on a Gladiator Beast fusion monster, then special summon that fusion monster from your extra deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. So it's a lot like the Ritual Beast quick play, I forget what the name of it was, and El Shaddai fusion as well. But it's ignoring summoning conditions, it's extremely important to have that. Is it going to be a 3 of? Probably not, but it's going to be a knockout punch in the deck that the deck is kind of going to need, because you're only going to have so many cards in your hand, and that's another weakness with the deck, is when you put everything out onto the field, can the deck quite recur like a meta deck can? I don't know. It has a possibility with different texts that people are going to come up with, and I'll let you know about that in a little bit as well. But make sure that you check out all of these cards and all the possibilities. Next up, we got Gladiator Rejection. Gladiator Rejection says you can only activate the second effect of this card's name once per turn. Gladiator Beast monsters you control cannot be targeted by your opponent's card effects except during the battle phase. So it's kind of like Pseudo Leo, the synchro from back in the day, except it's till the battle phase, not main phase 2. Secondly, if a Gladiator Beast monster is special summoned from your deck, you can special summon from your deck in defense position one Gladiator Beast monster with a different type from the one that you control. This is a continuous spell. Let's make sure we remember that it's a continuous spell. So getting it out is going to be kind of hard. I think you're going to play maybe one, maybe two, but I feel like it gets kind of bricky if you play more than two. Next up, we got Mad Gladiator Beast, which is a normal trap card. Target face-up cards on the field up to the number of different Gladiator Beast monsters you control and destroy them. Last but not least, well maybe least, we have Gladiator Namachia. While you control a Gladiator Beast monster your opponent controls must attack if able. So if you have control of the board and then you remember the monster says they have to attack or you get to choose the attack targets, this is a kind of a nuts card. I don't know if it's going to be super duper 3 of staple, but it's going to be pretty strong. His second effect, once per turn, you can shuffle one Gladiator Beast monster from your hand or grave into the deck, then target one Gladiator Beast monster you control. Until the end of this turn, that monster gains attack equal to its original defense. Lastly, if this card in the spell or trap card zone is destroyed by a card effect, so if they actually try to get rid of it, you can activate this effect for the rest of the turn. Gladiator Beast monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle. Now, in touching on all of the new stuff, the main deck stuff is frustrating, like the monsters, at least monster-wise. It's a little bit frustrating. I think you play the big guy. But other than that, I feel like the spells are the only thing that matter. Maybe one of the trap, maybe. I feel like Chariot is the obvious. You got to have the counter trap for the deck, of course. And then from there, I feel like everything else is stuff from the past or like Gladiator Beast back in the day, it only had so much of an engine, and then the rest of the deck was just staples of the time. And I feel like that's the same thing that's going to boil down to this deck. So I feel like if we're deck building, and I'm going to try to at least try to start in a direction, and you guys can obviously take it from there. I feel like cards like Test Tiger, you got to play 3 Test Tiger, like right out of the gate. You have to play it. I think Augustus is probably a 2 or a 3 of. I'd probably say 2. It's the perfect number because it's shuffling into the deck at the end of the battle phase after it special summons one monster from your hand in defense position, and it being a 2600 beater. I feel like 2 is just the correct number. I think you have to play Bestiari. I would say a 3 just because you don't know what the meta is going to be, and if Tenyi and all that stuff comes out, all these decks have back row. You're in a back row heavy game right now, unless Harpy's Feather Duster comes off the list. These are things you pretty much have to play at 3. So I think you'd have to play 3 of the Bestiari. I think you'd have to play 2 or 3 of Darius because of his ability to target a Glad Beast and special summon it. But again, these are all the old cards. I do think you have to play at least 1 because I feel like it would break if you play more than that. But Noxious, just because he can help, kind of like Altergeist Kinkiri, protect you from dying quickly. If you run into a deck that can just overwhelm you, he may be able to stem the tide or at least hold the tide back a little bit so you can come back. And if Glad Beast gets that little bit of breathing room, it can come back. That is what it's always kind of benefited from and had the power to do, is jump right back into the game. Now, when we talk about Andal is weird because it's a normal monster, but it's pretty much going to be the focal point of the deck, in my opinion, because either you play Rescue Rabbit or you play Unexpected Die, and then the rest of the deck is pretty much filled out with staples of the game. Whatever the meta calls for at the time is what you're going to fill it out with. Again, this is why I said it's a little bit frustrating because all those new cards in the main deck, and really you're probably only going to play 2 or 3 of them. The spells and the traps are what matter because the Reborns, the Recursion, the trap card, I still think you only play 1, but 1 is 1. The trick of this deck, I think, in deck building it is, what are you going to do to facilitate getting the monsters out onto the field quickly? I also think Elemental Hero Prisma is a good example of a card that can help you, but I don't know if that's better than, Rescue Rabbit. Rescue Rabbit helping you get 2 monsters out on the field. That can help you get going a lot quicker, but then you can die a horrible death if that gets cracked. Versus a card like, let's say, Hero Lives that helps you facilitate getting out the Elemental Hero Prisma. So that's the main deck. That's how I would break it down. You know, the rest you can fill out for yourself with Ash Blossoms and Impermanents and so on and so forth. The focal point of the extra deck is around the new fusion and the new link, like it's without question. So let's use an example of a combo. I would say you normal summon Rescue Rabbit, then you special 2 of the normal guy, Andal is his name, and then you link into the new link, which is called Test Panther, which is actually Slave Panther in Japanese. I don't know why they changed that. But then you would search the comeback card that is like the Reborn, and then summon Andal back from the graveyard. Then you can shuffle it back with Panther's effect, and then you can summon Darius. So you can, off of one card, let's say Rescue Rabbit, go off completely. The cool part about that is, as I think about it, as I'm talking about it, if you do that and you shuffle back an Andal, or you can do that more than once. Well, I guess if you tribute it off and you special 2 and then you put one back because you shuffled it back, then every time you draw Rescue Rabbit, it's going to be broken. So off of that, and this is just me formulating an opinion, this is me formulating deck theory, I would say I'd play 3 Rescue Rabbit, and I wouldn't worry about overdrawing it, because you're not actually going to overdraw it. If your combo is resolved, it's going to go off. However, that's exactly where I said the weakness is you're going to die a horrible death to an Effect Veiler or an Ash Blossom. But, you know, a lot of decks do that. Hope this helped you guys some kind of way. That was just me trying to give an intro to how you can play the deck. If you don't like Glad Beast like I didn't 10 years ago, you're probably not going to play it, because I hated the deck and it almost made me quit, because that's all I used to see at events that I was going to back then when I was a kid. This is Greg Frawley from The Wise Guy signing out. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you stay tuned. We got videos coming. And as always, YG baby.